Hot diggity dog, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hightop Sports. Our boy Coach Johnny just landed himself his first hire as his tenure as head coach of Florida Gators, and it is his defensive coordinator, a name that we didn't have any feels on him. We didn't even do a hot board yet, and it's happened that quickly. He had his presser yesterday. Moving on to DC, it seems like some names for OC are being honed in on, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But here's what we're going to do now. We're going to talk about this DC hire, what we like, what we're concerned about, if we have any concerns, okay? I told you, my job this time is to do our due diligence as best as possible to make sure we don't just read this with googly eyes and Kool-Aid eyes. It's hard not to because Coach Johnny got me fired up, okay? Here's Johnny. But I'm doing my due diligence. I'm trying to ask every question that I think somebody who's more of a pessimistic person view would look at it. I'm trying to find the holes. I may not always find them. Maybe you will, and I'll look into it. We'll dive into it. But we're going to break it all down. I've got charts we're going to go over. We're going to compare them to how we've been, which isn't much. Very low bar. Should we get excited about it? I don't know. Talent-wise, all those things, going to be some great stuff. But let's go ahead and meet our defensive coordinator, Brad White, who, as you can see, has been the defensive coordinator at Kentucky since 2019. He also coached alongside Coach Summerall during part of this tenure as well. And both coaches were part of Josh Hines Allen, I believe, going into the NFL. Now, first order of business, I know people are going to say, whoa, they coached together at Kentucky, they're best buds. No. Just because you've worked with somebody for 2 to 3 years doesn't mean you're best buddies, okay? There's plenty of people that I work with currently that I would probably consider having on my staff if I were to ever run a business someday, but I can't stand. I loathe them, but I understand they're good at their job, right? Now, you also don't want to work with somebody you hate. That's also a key thing, so I'm sure he doesn't mind Mr. Brad White, but understands his tendencies, understands his work ethic, and understands what he wants to get done. Mind you, some people are looking at Brad Baker from LSU. He's quote-unquote buddies with Brad Baker, but we like what Brad's going to do. Apparently, it looks like Brad will be interviewing for the Tulane job. I did see on a message board that LSU was eyeing Mr. Brad White. So, like that we were able to swoop on in there and scoop it up. How much truth is to that? Who knows anymore? If there's any fuel to the fire that I could take a piss on LSU, I'm going to go ahead and pull my pants down and do it. Enough of that. Let's keep it moving here. So, Brad White, 2019. Let's do some compare and contrasts before we get into the graph, okay? Before we get into the full breakdown of what Brad White brings, of in my area, in my thought, my concern. And this is going to be kind of something we kind of keep an eye on because there's starting to be a trend that I am looking at. Now, does it mean anything? Who knows? We'll find out these answers to my concerns in the next couple of days, and I'll tell you about that here in just a minute. But let's take a look. Here's the ranking since 2019. 2019, Florida, I have both Florida there's. Kentucky ranked 14th, Florida ranked 7th, okay? After that, Florida decided not to play football anymore and ranked not once outside of 2024 above. And that was the Armstrong and Ron Roberts duo there when we ranked 44th. It's kind of funny. We've gotten worse since Armstrong left. I'm just kidding. Now, we ranked 74th, 73rd, 87, 78, and 44, and 64 in 2025, while Kentucky has ranked 14th, 45th, 26th, 11th, then 61, 32, 75. Now, there's obviously a little bit of concern over the last 3 years. There seems to be a decline. 32 is a solid year, right? And even with the said decline, we only beat them 1 year, and that was this year. And Kentucky had a really, really bad year, as we all saw. Now, what is that a reason to be concerned? Is that more of a correlation because of Stoops? Like, Stoops been overstayed his welcome 3 years too many. When you think about those Kentucky's teams over the last 3 years, I think they kind of changed their identity a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, if we're being honest, right? These were kind of that, the Will Levis years. They obviously have had trouble the last 2 years with quarterbacks since Levis has left. Right, we're well removed from Ray Davis. So, there's a plethora of things that could be playing into this. I'm sure their recruiting classes haven't been much to write home about either with Kentucky. Again, outside of that 1 year that and I want to say it was probably 22, where they were a really good football team, it just seemed like it's been a steady decline in the sense of who they've looked to replace, of who they brought in for recruiting, of who they have attacked in the portal. They've kind of really given up attacking certain things, and I think them moving on from Stoops and Will Steins was a great move for them. So I'm not going to put too much weight into it. Is it a reason for to freak out? No. But obviously, definitely something I'm monitoring and looking at. Again, the defensive side of the thing, I was never really too concerned about because it is Summerall. That's his bread and butter. I'm trusting him in that. But again, we still want to be, I do like that he's bringing somebody in that has coached in this world. That's coached up against the Kirby's. That's coached up against the Charlie Weiss Juniors of the world. He knows what to expect and what these offenses will bring with him. That is a phenomenal attribution that he'll be able to bring to him. Bring guys that have experience in this world around you if you can. And I believe from what I saw, I haven't got any confirmation anywhere else, that his salary will be $1.4 million, up there, but not the highest. So a healthy rate leaves us plenty of money to go get other great talent elsewhere. And that's what's going to be key. Where do you plug in? He just did an interview a little bit ago on ESPN with Matt Berry. Phenomenal interview, about 10 to 15 minutes, not even, actually, pretty quickly. And he spoke to how he's trying to attack this process, wants to be quick, but wants to be thorough, and kind of and Billy said this too, but a measure twice, cut once kind of guy, which I think all coaches should be that. But he then reiterated, but we still got to move quickly. I still want to do these things and handle it. But he says, I've been watching a lot of film, because right now he's wearing two hats, being the Florida Gators head coach. He's still the Tulane coach. They did ask if he will continue to coach after this game. He goes, if I am playing in a championship game, I will be coaching. I took that as if they lose this game, they'll be in a really good bowl game, but I don't think he'll be coaching that bowl game. It's the way that I intended it, which I don't see why he would, which I like. He goes, look, if we're playing for a playoff, yeah, I'm going to be there. Why wouldn't I be there? And he also said, and I love this, and I've always kind of carried myself the same way, a coach that we won't speak of here did not do this. He goes, look, I'm very gracious for Tulane and Florida for allowing me to coach in both, to continue to coach for Tulane. Both have been very gracious in that. He goes, I made it very clear with everyone that I spoke to that I have a job to do here first, and I'm not going to leave these guys high and dry before I take on this next job. And I mean, I know I'm going all off of a tangent here, but he said a beautiful thing about why Florida, right? And he goes, look, when I came to Tulane, I made the decision that I am only leaving Tulane for an elite Power 4 job. And there's only about 5 to 10 of those schools in the country, and Florida is a top 10/top 5 job in the country that is worth leaving, not worth, but is one that you would leave Tulane for. So when they came and knock him, I was ready to go, which coach just had to fire me up for one more thing about it. But the other part I wanted to get in, back to our defensive rankings here, is during that time period, Florida put 16 guys into the NFL draft on the defensive side, while Kentucky only put 11. So think about that for just a quick second. Now, there's probably an opportunity that we could have sent more, if we're being quite honest, right? But we put 16 guys in over that time period. I don't believe we had any first rounders. Could be. No, we did. I think Javon was. I think we had 1 or 2. Don't quote me on that one, so just disregard that. We probably had a 1 or 2 during that time period. Kiari Elam was during that. Yeah, so maybe 3. But anyways, 16 compared to 11. So we had 16 NFL draft picks over that time span, and only beat Kentucky twice, which was 2019 at 7, and then again in 2020 this year in 2025, and we don't even know what's going to happen. We had a lot of talent on this team. We knew that, and we still finished 64th, right? I mean, with Banks, with Sapp, with Gums. Devin Moore is probably going to be an NFL talent. So a lot of NFL talent there on that side of the ball. We're going to get into this defense and why I believe that it's very Ron Roberts. He has that Ron Roberts-esque, where I think the defense that's already kind of instilled in these guys, the way that we play, containing the outside, a very strong interior defensive lineman, and elite linebackers, is going to allow for him to succeed more than he has in the past, okay? Which excites me because, again, it's a very smart play of like, my guys already know how to do this. He likes to coach the way they're already playing. They're not gonna. He's not a big blitz guy, kind of like Austin Armstrong was. We'll just throw blitzes at you. We didn't see a lot of blitzes or sacks. We will dial up pressure, right? We heard Summerall. I loved. I don't know what interview I watched, but he goes, "Look, one of his favorite play calls is to call an all-out blitz." That's not, that's just one of those kind of like haymaker throws. Everyone knows how to do that, but wants to contain the line. He does struggle with mobile quarterbacks. A lot of teams do. I think there isn't too many teams that can figure those things out. I think we did a pretty good job of containing mobile quarterbacks. You're going to get beat by them. That's their job, but that is one of his weaknesses at Kentucky. But a lot of that has to do with talent and speed in the linebacker room, which I believe we do have. So that's why we've been able to do a pretty good job of containing it. Let's take a look at his graph, all right? Let's take a look. Well, actually, before we take a look at the graph, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Kalshi. And I thought this was interesting because I took a look to see who they felt was going to win the championship. heading into this year. Right now, Ohio State, then Indiana are your 1 and 2 favorites by the people. Because mind you, Kalshi isn't like your Vegas bookie. This is like a stock market that is pumped by the people. And this has a massive trade volume of $22 million of people throwing money into this bet currently. If you feel like a Georgia, which I think is a sleeper pick right now, or an A&M, who you can see is very low on this, now is your opportunity to get in on the action. And here's the thing, with each passing round, these odds are going to change dramatically. So if you feel like A&M has a chance, maybe just get in right now, let them ride to maybe the Final Four. They're going to jump dramatically. And here's the cool thing. You can pull out. You can get out and you can make money off of your investment because you're not just picking them to win and letting it ride out. Just like the stock market. Stock market gets hot, it rises, you sell, and you get out. It's a really cool way to bet on college football. You can do it in the middle of the game. All kinds of great stuff. You can bet on anything from college football to coaching hires to Heisman winners to politics to Grammy winners. Everything. Use the code Hightop when you sign up. Links in the description. Get $10 off when you use your first $100. Kalshi, they've been powering us all season long. Now, let's get into the graph here. Now, I've got a cool graph, too. I'm going to show you Jim Knowles' graph, which is considered the best defensive coordinator in college football, currently at Penn State. So, in comparison of how Brad White matches up to everybody else, you can see, and this is what I intended to get out of it, is that, again, a very overall healthy graph. I think if you talk to Kentucky people, they probably wouldn't have anything negative to say about Brad White. But like anything, I mean, they have been just lulled to sleep by that entire staff. They've seen the same thing on the sidelines for years. They need a fresh, coat of paint. So I don't think I saw somebody comment about his third down woes. We're used to that here at Florida. Third down efficiency isn't obviously the highest there, but all around very healthy graph for Mr. Brad White. There's obviously the biggest thing would be pressure, which we talked about, right? That's not his bread and butter. Adjustments in game. That is something, and again, I think that speaks a lot to working with Stoops, who I've compared to Kirby on their ability to try to muddy up a game. And that is something that we've seen that with Kentucky, that if you get into a dogfight with Kentucky, you've lost, because they want to muddy the waters and they want to be able to beat you in the adjustment game, not necessarily the prep game. And Kirby does a phenomenal job at that too. And it's exhausting when you are a part of it. Hence why I've spoke not as positively about Joey Hazel from Tennessee, but that doesn't mean he's not a good coordinator. But those are my concerns on that. But I spoke to that yesterday in the OC video. If you haven't seen that, take a look at that. But let's take a look at Mr. Knowles really quick here in comparison to our guy Brad White. And I'm going to hide me for a second so you can see the difference. Again, Jim Knowles is on the right. Brad White is over me on the left. Obviously, Jim Knowles is a much more fuller polygraph, as you would expect. He's considered one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. So an all-around full circle. And this is what should make you feel even better about what we are getting in Brad White. Both have a low recruiting impact. Ohio State, Penn State, where he's been, he hasn't in other places. He's kind of, these older DCs, you kind of feel like they've taken away from the game, right? Ron Roberts, in my opinion, is a good DC, but if you want to talk about the entire kit and caboodle, I don't think that's really important. Chip Kelly, I think, is another great coordinator, but those guys probably are they're so tired of the game and what it's become. They've stepped away from that recruiting aspect, if you will. That is, for me, my area of concern for the staff as of now. With what we know, it has, in my opinion, John Summerall isn't necessarily known as a top tier recruiter or as an elite recruiter, just based on stats. Now, when it comes to players loving him and what he's able to do, again, he's also been working at Troy and Tulane. So he's probably realized what he can and cannot do. And it's like, I'm not going to waste my time of trying to shake hands and kiss babies when it's just like, look, here's what we're going to do. I've got to spend more time working. So I'm going to be a little reserved on that. I think there's plenty of staff and plenty of guys that you can bring in to help with that. And I think that we have a pretty elite staff when it comes to recruiting. Joe Hamilton is one of the best. So just make sure you do a good job of retaining what we already have. We've done a hell of a job of recruiting with very little production. So he comes in, provides for production. You've got a staff that's already phenomenal at recruiting, and it's already built. Capitalize with that. Do what you do. I think the rest comes together. In my opinion, if there's a hole to fix, I'd rather have that. We had a guy that could recruit out of his mind, and we still really didn't. That was one of his strengths, and I don't feel like we have truly capitalized on it, if we're being honest. If recruiting was your strength, we should have knocked things out of the park. I think Caldwell is going to help with that. I think the recruiting staff can help with that if we're concerned about landing big-time guys. Something that, again, I would say is that he talked about, now I get to fish with 9 and 5 stars. This was Johnny's words yesterday, not mine. Where Napier spoke to more of like, we want to make sure that we get the right type of guy in here. Doesn't worry about the stars. No, Cat, give me some 5 and 9 stars. You know what I'm saying? So, Johnny, we're on a first-name basis. And it's no disrespect. I just get fired up, just so you guys are clear. Understands what it, he's already kind of talking as if like, I know that since that I'm here, what I get to do now. I get to go get that top tier talent, and I'm going to tell them how I'm going to make them even better than what they already are. So, love this hire. I really do. I really do. We didn't have many DC opportunities or options. We'll see what he builds around it. And I think that's going to be key. I would love if he keeps Chapman. I think there's talks about him bringing over the linebacker coach from Tulane, who was a Gator great. So far, so good. Love all those things. What are they going to put at safeties? Who do we bring in at cornerback? Do we keep the guys on staff? I don't know. He's like, look, and he said on this interview, he's like, I'm wearing a lot of hats, very little sleep, watching a lot of film. I think he's trying to figure out who and what he wants to keep, who he needs to go and get to capitalize on it. We're going to try to flip some guys here in the next 24 hours. A lot of exciting things happening that we're going to be a part of. More exciting things is that, look, it's summer all season, baby. It's always sunny in Gainesville. And we got merch, boys. Hightopsport.com/shop. We got Air Summerall. We got Welcome to Somerville with our cartoon caricature. We got the clean little outline version here. We will have just maybe, or drop the maybe cuz shirts dropping in the next, hopefully a day or so. We got some Air Summerall hats. There's more things I don't even have here. Get you some. Shirts are out. Very pumped for this lineup. Excited for our new coach. Really excited to be a part of what coach has got in store for us. And Friday should be exciting. We got 7 p.m. kickoff tonight. Tuesday against Duke. We've got basketball live watch party with Cody the Professor and myself. I'll be joining a little bit late, but be sure, guys, we are almost at 29,000 subs. Absolutely insanity. We're on pace. We've got basically a month, 30 days for only 1,000 more subs. We're going to get it. We're going to smash it. We're going to lick it. We're going to do all the good things, baby. Okay? Johnny, sum me out, boys. Hey, peace and love, cuz. Peace and love.